I'm not a big accounting taxation fan, and I didn't want to do it for the rest of my life. Meesho, I think one of the best decisions I took in my career.
Took a break from working and started studying again for MBA. How was that change?
As much as I love the whole travel planning and actual travel, there's one part of it I used to absolutely hate, and that was visas. I finished my CA by 21.
How relevant do you think MBA degrees are nowadays?
Most people who leave, I think I was reading somewhere, is because they don't get along with their boss, for example.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay not to know what you want, right? And it's okay to take the time and explore and then come back and say, this is what I want.
In today's episode of the FuelEd Unfiltered, we're joined by the amazing Nikita Dresswala, who is the founder of Teleport, a travel tech startup that simplifies travel visa applications. Teleport is a fast and easy-to-use platform that provides real-time status updates, so you never have to worry about your application progress. Nikita has worked as a senior consultant at KPMG, has worked as the director of monetization at Meesho, built products, led teams, and done a whole lot of interesting things. So let's talk to Nikita and find out how she does what she does. Hi, Nikita. Welcome to the FuelEd Unfiltered podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I think we've been talking about this for a while, so it's good to finally do this.
Yes, glad it's finally happening.
Yeah.
So, Nikita, the flow of this conversation is going to have a certain structure. We're going to ask you a few questions. But while we do that, you are free to go on any tangent, talk about whatever comes to your mind as long as it relates to the question. So to begin with, would you like to walk us through your journey so far? What's your professional or personal background?
Sure.
Where do you come from?
Sure. Let me maybe start from the beginning and then move towards the end. But let me just tell you guys what I do right now. So I'm the founder of this company called Teleport. What we do is we have a very simple product. We are simplifying travel visas for people, and maybe I'll talk a lot more about it during the podcast. But my journey before that has been very different from the product that I'm building right now. So I'm originally from Bombay, grew up there. Both my parents are chartered accountants. So I think growing up, there was a lot of chatter around accounting. So I ended up studying to become one as well. So by profession, I started out as a chartered accountant, spent 4 years working at KPMG in their M&A team. But very early in my journey, I kind of realized I'm not a big accounting taxation fan, and I didn't want to do it for the rest of my life. And I always wanted to build something. I think I always had that kira to go and build something on my own. But back then, and this is like 2013, right? So I didn't know much about what I wanted to build, how I wanted to go about building. But
how old were you back then?
So this is 22. So I was 22. I started working very early. So because I was doing CA, I started working at 18. So in second year of my college, I joined KPMG. Yeah, exactly. So my articleship was KPMG. So, but I think by the end of that 3 years, I knew कि यार ये तो नहीं होगा. But my parents were very clear कि यार, you started it, you have to finish it. And I also wanted to finish it.
Indian parent ever.
Exactly. So and I think I was also kind of a nerd back then. So it was like, okay, yaar, kar to lete hai, khatam. It's not like I can't do it. So I lucky enough to, finish it early. I finished my CA by 21. And then
I think that's the
I think if
possible age you can finish your
like
CA.
21, 22 is a good age to finish your CA by. But it's good for me because then I could go and pursue things beyond CA.
Now that you've satisfied your parents.
Yes, I was like, okay, I've CA ho gaya, I have a degree. Worst case, if anything else happens, doesn't work out, I always know I have I know something I can go back to. That was very clear. I didn't want to go back to that. And since I wanted to build, I decided I'll go work for startups, maybe learn how to build, and along the way I'll figure out what I wanted to build. So I joined a very early stage company back then. It was a company called KPMG. We were a B2B HR SaaS kind of a platform. Spent about a year and a half working with them. I think one realization I had was while I understood a lot of accounting finance, there were a lot of other things about building a company which I didn't have a structure around. So I decided, let me go and do my MBA. So that's when I decided to, park my career for a while, go back to studying. So I went to INSEAD. I was there for about a year. Came back to Bombay. Again, that kida for building was always there. So I actually started a very small company back then. It was a D2C brand for menswear. But I think I was also, again, still very, very naive about building. I very soon realized that this idea in the form that I was building it in was not super viable. And I said, okay, let me then go back to, things that I enjoy. And that was again startup. So this is 2018. So 2018 is when I joined Meesho. So the last 4 years before starting Teleport, I spent at Meesho. I think one of the best decisions I took in my career. I was a very early stage company. Back then, we were a small team of around 45, 50 people.
Wow.
We've now grown to almost like, I'm guessing, close to 2,000 odd people. So I've seen that journey of that, the whole 0 to 1, 1 to 100, and did a bunch of different things there, did a lot of 0 to 1 projects, worked very closely with the leadership team there. And I think 2022 is when I realized that I am now ready to go back out there and build. I think now I had a structure to do a lot of things. I had a lot more confidence. I had a lot more, learnings, but also financially, I think I was a lot more stable because now I had some corpus of my own. And that's when I decided, okay, it's good time to go out and build. So I quit in last year, May, and started Teleport in last year, August. And yeah, I've been at it for the last 1.5 years now. We've been, like I said, building a product that simplifies travel visas. We are a 15 people team right now. So we've grown quite a bit since then. And yeah, so that's been my journey. Happy to go in deeper in any parts you'd want me to.
We will talk about your journey at Meesho and Teleport. But before that, there was a point when you said that you took a break from working and started studying again for MBA. How was that change? Because I think a lot of people face this difficulty where they think that once they start working, once money starts coming in, it's very tough to go back to studying. And how was that change for you?
Honestly, it was a difficult choice. I think it's never easy because you're used to, your salary coming every month in your bank account. You have a stable job, you have your own set of people, and then going back to actually studying is hard. And especially for somebody like me who'd done CA and I'd gotten to a point where padhai ho gayi, right? Like I don't want to study anymore. But I think there were a few realizations that got me to there. For me personally, one realization I had was because I was a CA, a lot of my understanding of things were limited to finance, accounting.
Right.
Also, not just that, but I realized what the world viewed me as was also that. Like people think, okay, CA is, accounting, finance. When is somebody who's an engineer, they used to doing a bunch of different things. But when it comes to CAs, most CAs end up doing accounting, finance, and which is why the world also views it like that. And for me, that was a realization that, hey, I want the world to look at me also differently. And which is where, upskilling for me became super important.
Right.
So yeah, and I think the more you work, the more you see interesting people around you. A lot of people I used to look up to were mentors to me, had a master's degree, had an MBA. And I think that was my push to say, okay, let me at least go and give it a shot. But yeah, it's a hard decision, I would say. I think it's a big financial. I remember even back then, INSEAD fee was around 65,000-70,000 euros, which was a big decision for me to take. And I was working at a startup, right? So it wasn't like I was making too much money. So I had to take a big loan to kind of repay that. And which is why I was saying, now, like when I left Teleport, I think I realized how important it is to have that financial corpus to be able to go and build. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It does. So you were kind of waiting to be in a better financial position to be able to start something of your own and to scale it.
Correct.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Actually. Talking about the Teleport bit, how did you like decide that this is something you want to build? Because personally, I haven't seen a lot of startups in this particular arena.
Yeah.
I think I only know of Stamp My Visa,
Yeah.
which is a B2B visa
Correct.
startup, but I
Correct.
think your caters to B2C, if I'm not
Correct.
wrong.
Correct.
But yeah, how did you come up with the idea of building? Is this something that you
Yeah.
faced personally, visa issues and all?
Yes, I think that's where it came from. So
Every founder ever.
yeah, I think that's a good way to build.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah,
You solved a real problem. Not a lot of
exactly,
startups do that.
exactly. And I think that I recommend that to everybody. Like
Yeah.
any founder who's building, I'm like, so if you can find a problem that you relate to, that's the best
just
kind
go
of
and solve
problem
it,
to
yeah.
solve, because then you're super passionate about it yourself. You understand the market. I think for me, I've been an avid traveler myself. So I've done enough number of trips, both at a personal level, even work-wise. Even when I was at Meesho, I was helping them launch the Indonesia business, Southeast Asia business.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of traveling even then. And I saw how painful it was for me to get a visa. And as much as I love the whole travel planning and actual travel, there's one part of it I used to absolutely hate, and that was visas. And then, I said, okay, let me see if it's a me problem, whether it's an everybody problem. So I started speaking to a lot of other people around me, and I realized it's not a me problem. Everybody ends up struggling with visas. I remember so for a lot of countries, the visas get processed by this third party company called as VFS. So they have their center here at Jayanagar. So I remember going there and speaking to random people, random strangers, trying to understand, how the process was for them. And like 75 to 80% people I spoke to were just so frustrated with the whole process. And I think that was the moment for me. I'm like, hey, this is a me problem. This is an everybody problem.
Yeah.
There's a solution I think I could build, considering given my background. While I didn't build in travel, I've worked with tech companies a lot over the last few years.
Yeah.
And I thought there's 100% there's a way tech can solve this problem. And I think that kind of gave me the conviction to, then go out there and pick this problem statement and build it.
So you brought your experience together with the problem that you thought everybody was facing. And
Correct. No, 100%. I think the more we even spend time building this, I think the more I realize there's so much more to solve. And hopefully we'll get there. I think we're still super early in our journey. Another maybe a year, I think we'll have a product that's fully solving for all the countries, all the visa categories. So today we solve for tourist and business visas.
Yeah.
We solve for some countries, about 35 plus countries.
Yeah.
Maybe another year down the line, I think we'll have all the categories, all the countries. And
that's a good place to be at, and I'm sure you're going to scale.
Yes.
Yes.
Did your finance background help you in building Teleport by any chance?
Not
Considering
from
it's entirely a tech product.
So tech-wise, honestly, finance background didn't help too much. I think what helped was the amount of time I'd spent working with startups. I think because I was Meesho, I used to work closely with the product and tech teams there. Even before my MBA, I was working for a startup. So I think I understood the basics of building tech. I think my finance background helped me in other things. I think a lot of founders struggle with fundraising, compliances, and it's something people hate. Like, and even I hate, like, if I have to get into compliances and, fundraising is not like my favorite activity to do. But I think my finance background helped me get those pieces right. I understood the basic finances, compliances. Even if you look at visas overall, a lot of it is compliance, right? And I'd done enough compliance in my previous life to kind of know how do you simplify it. So I think it helped. It helped there. In building from a business perspective, not as much, but I think it's just important. I think as a founder, I've realized a lot of founders also struggle with understanding unit economics of a business, right? And I think because of my finance background, I understand the ins and outs of, P&L very, very well. And I think, let's say if you're a very early founder, very young as a founder, you come from an engineering background, you've never seen a P&L or a balance sheet in your life, and it can be very overwhelming.
It is, yeah.
And I think that bit was easier for me then, because I understood I'd done enough P&L management all my life to know, to not get scared of it at least. I think I still need help here and there every time. But yeah, I think my finance background obviously helps me. I think there are very few finance founders out there who are building.
Yeah, very few. I've
feel-
mostly seen founders with tech background.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully it's changing. I see a lot more women.
Yeah.
I see a lot more founders from, finance background now thinking about building.
Yeah.
So it's we usually risk averse, right? I think when you come from a finance background, it takes you a while to get out of it. I think for me also, it took me a while to get out of that mindset of risk averseness. If you've done too much audit in your life, you become risk averse in general, and it takes a mindset shift to go out there and build. So yeah,
All of your
So true.
experiences helped you work at Teleport right now.
Yeah.
While we're talking about your previous experience, I want to talk more about Meesho.
Yeah.
So I believe you started at Meesho as a CEO's person, and within 3 years, you worked your way up to being the director of monetization. First of all, I want to understand what a director of monetization does, and how was your journey at Meesho look like? How did you work your way up to being a director, and how did that the experience at Meesho helped you do better at Teleport?
Sure. So let me talk about my journey at Meesho. I'll talk about monetization. I think that was my
That's where I think your finance background also came in.
correct. To some extent, yes. So I started at Meesho as the chief of staff to the founder, right? And I think that was my most interesting role at Meesho amongst all the 3 roles that I've had. So if you know the chief of staff role, it's you basically like the right hand to the founder, right? So you have a bird's eye view of everything that is happening in the company, and you end up picking the most important projects in the company, projects that involve, like I was working on a project where, we're trying to make our gross margins positive. Now, if you have to make your gross margins positive, you have to work with all the teams, because there's a sales team that has to cut costs, there's an operations team that needs to, make it more efficient. So I think I spent a year at Meesho at the chief of staff role, and I was working very closely with the founder. What another interesting thing that role did was, because it gave me access to everything that was happening in the company, it also helped me choose what I wanted to do next after that role. So the good part about the chief of staff role is you get to do a little bit of everything, but you're not really executing. And I think, given the kind of person that I was, I wanted to get my hands dirty and really pick up a project and make it my baby and see it end to end. So I spent a year at the chief of staff role, and then went back to the founder, said I want to do something else. And back then we were doing a lot of research on international expansion. So there were companies who were trying to build products similar to Meesho outside. And then the question was, why are we not doing it, right? Why is somebody else building Meesho for Indonesia? Why can't Meesho build Meesho for Indonesia, right? So I moved to that role. It's a 0 to 1 role entirely. So I remember it was just the 3 of us from the India team. They said, okay, go and build it, right? So it was like a mini startup within a larger startup. So I ended up spending almost a year at Indonesia, helping build Meesho's business there. So we grew almost up to 100 people team there. Then I came back. This was post-COVID, so I decided I decided to pick up another project, which is the monetization one. So the way monetization came into the picture was, the monetization for Meesho also was a 0 to 1 project, and I had by that time become like the go-to person in the team for a lot of 0 to 1 projects in the company. So Meesho had changed their business model, and we had said we'll go to 0 commissions for our suppliers. So the way Meesho used to make money until then was that for every sale that would happen on the platform, we would charge a commission to the seller at the back. So you charge like a 10% commission, and that's how we were making money. We went to Southeast Asia, we looked at how businesses worked in Indonesia, and we realized all of those countries, the way the business worked was there was no commissions to any sellers. And they used to make money on advertising, financing products, so a lot of these things. And so we decided to pivot in India. We said we will go to a 0 commission model. And hence then the question was, Kia, we'll go to 0 commission, but like, how will you make money? And that's how the monetization team started. The goal of the monetization team was to identify, if we don't charge commissions, how else can we make money? So the first product, which is the product that I spent a lot of time building, was our advertising product. which is merchants on Meesho running ads on Meesho. So today, when you go on Amazon or Flipkart, you'll see all these, sponsored ad products. Sellers pay for those ads to come on the top. And so that's the business I helped launch at Meesho. So I spent almost my last one and a half year at Meesho just building this one product. And and I like today that product is the highest like grossing revenue at the company. So we stopped commissions, but advertising is now the largest, and now we're building other products. So I think after I quit, I think they're doing a lot more things around, financing, seller services, and charging for products there. But yeah.
So when you were working in Indonesia, you said that it was like working in a small startup.
Yeah.
But so I understand that you were most probably just contributing in an individual capacity, since you said it was just a team of 3.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of individual work that you were doing, which is very different from working within a team where other people can help you. You can brainstorm together, work together. So how was it like? What do you like better, working in a team or working like in an individual capacity? And how do you think both are different?
I don't think I have a preference of one over another. I think both have its. I love working individually because I think then I have a lot of control over what is happening. I also am using I think there's one thing I struggle with, I think is...
But that's very energy intensive.
Yeah, correct. Like it gives you, because you're like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm building this, versus when you have a team, I think a lot of your time is then, building a great team and getting things done from them. So I think for a long time, I used to love that individual contributor role. So when I was the chief of staff, I was an individual contributor there. The Indonesia role to begin with was individual contribution, but over a period of time, we realized we just can't do it ourselves. Indonesia is very unique as a country. There's a language gap. Like I obviously didn't speak Bahasa. Initially, we thought we'll build a very, lean team and we'll build it. But we realized very soon in the journey that, culturally there is a lot of difference. Language-wise, there is a lot of difference. It's also a very relationship-driven market. So having somebody who's a local, they may not trust when I go and put a sales pitch versus a local guy going and putting a sales pitch has a very different effect. So I think we realized early on in the Indonesia journey that you can't really build a super lean team for the product, at least that we were building. And we started building out those teams very early. And then a lot of my role was ensuring that we hired the right people. And then we, build strong processes. You ensure that, then I was more focused on growth rather than, getting into day-on-day execution of things. So we, over a period of time, built out operations, sales, a lot of these other functions. But yeah, I think when you're young, it's always good to start lean as far as when I started Teleport, for the longest time, it was just like 4 of us. And then when we really knew that, hey, the product is ready and we need to scale, is when we started hiring. But I had to go back from that mindset of having large teams to then, going back and building again from starting that again, this whole 0 to 1 journey. I think at some point at Meesho, it was no longer a 0 to 1 journey. It had become, it's a 1 to 10 journey. I think we'd scaled enough. And then my role had changed because I was no longer building. I think I was obviously building, I was building teams and ensuring that we get to the goals as a team. But I was no longer an individual contributor. So I think I've seen that journey, and it takes some time to, transition from being a individual contributor to then, to leading a team.
When you're just starting out, and if you want to learn more and build something of your own later, it's better to start in an individual capacity.
Yes, 100%.
Because however energy intensive it might be, it gives you a better perspective of things.
Exactly. No, I 100% agree. I think, and I keep telling this to a lot of other people who also want to start up. It's good to join early stage companies, and it's good to pick up individual contributor roles, because then you learn
you get to learn a lot of
things, you get to learn a lot of things.
And I think a lot of young people are doing that.
To build their skill set, basically. I know a lot of young people who are joining early age startups instead of well-established companies.
No, I love that. I think it's so good. Like all the young people, when you're young, you should experiment more.
There's a lot of room for experimentation if you start at a young age.
Exactly. You don't need to settle that early. It'll take you go out there, experiment for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, figure out what you really like. before like settling down, right? It's money. For me, when I joined the startup that I was working for after KPMG, I actually took a salary cut to go there because they couldn't pay me the salaries that, KPMG was paying. But I said, okay, I'll learn. I want to learn how to build a business. I knew I wanted to build it myself someday.
That's a big sacrifice.
That is actually a huge sacrifice.
Yeah. No, but that's
not a lot of youngsters do that, because I think nowadays Gen Z is very money centric. I think they do chase money, including me at times.
Yeah.
But I think it's a huge decision.
Yeah, I think in the long term, I think you still make money. See, if you're smart enough and you're intelligent enough about things what you want in life, and you're focused, you'll eventually, money will come.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not like you are compromising on money for the future. You're compromising on money right now to learn. And later you want to make money.
Yeah, and that's how entrepreneurship is, right? I was making 8x the money I make right now at my start, because I'm building it for the long term. So I'm not taking a lot of salary right now. Obviously, I was making a lot more money at Meesho, right? And I could have continued that if money was the only goal. I think right now, obviously, money it's important. So I want to obviously make money in the long term. But I think there's a lot of joy that comes from just building something and creating value, building a product that users love. And eventually, I'm not worried about money. I know money will come, right? So I think you have to just believe that money will come. And I like that, I think the people, I see my sister, she's younger to me. She's almost like 7 years younger to me. And I see she taking a lot more risk than I used to. So yeah, I think
you've also taken a lot of risk.
Yeah, I have. Of course, I think I have. But I do love that people go out, and I think when you're young, I tell her the same thing. I'm like, go out there and explore. And it's fine if you're making lesser money now. You will eventually, catch up. So it's fine.
Yeah. So what I have deciphered from your story is that you ace at being a leader for sure. To me personally, I perceive leadership to be very tricky.
Yeah.
So I had a startup called Tweetsbook, which was eventually acquired by Fountain, the company I'm working at right now.
Yeah.
So my co-founder and I used to lead a team of like 7 people. And I was always caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Like, oh, what I want to do? Do I want to become the fun founder? Or do I want to be the strict boss? So I basically just went straight up to my co-founders. I told him that you have to be the strict one. I am a people pleaser.
Yeah, so and I want to be the fun founder. Bad cop. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So knowing that you're leading a team of 15 now, which is great actually.
Yeah.
I just want to know, how do you maintain the parity between being the fun founder and being the strict one? Because at times I'm pretty sure you face
I know it's
difficult. That maintain a balance, but how
very difficult. And in my case, I don't have a co-founder like yourself. Nobody can be a good cop and a bad cop. Honestly, there's no right answer to this. I end up struggling as well. I want to be the fun boss, but then I also want to get things done. And finding a balance is obviously very, very hard. I try to be fun when I can, and then there are times I know that this has to be done, and you can't compromise here, and there's no option but to be like a strict boss in that case. Though I think what has worked for me is it's just underlying what kind of a boss or a leader you are, right? You could be strict and fun, or you could be strict or fun, but at the end of the day, if you really care about the other person, if you have high empathy for your team, they get it, right? Like they know I'm being strict, but I am being strict for a certain reason. So they relate to me and I relate to them as an individual as well. And I think till the time that empathy is there and they know you care and they care about you and about the company, I think it's fine. Like they know I get strict at times and I'll lose my shit sometimes, but they know that underlying, like, I care enough about them, and I can be a
one of the perks of having a small tight knit team.
Exactly.
A team of 15, like it's easier to build empathy.
Yeah, correct. I think as you keep growing, I think it's good to have a lot of structure and processes in place.
Streamlined processes.
But I think when you're a small young team, I think my team is like a family, right? We spend 6 days of a week together. Even without that, we keep having a lot of fun. So this time, like the 7th day also, we went for like a hike together.
Wow.
So we spend a lot of time together. So it's more like family. And I think especially in the early stage, that helps. But over time, you're right. I think you need to have more. I think when I was at Meesho, there were really large teams, right?
Yeah.
And then it became super important to have structure, processes. How do you give feedback? How do you take feedback? And when you're managing a 50 people team, you really need to know how to do that, because then, having that family thing is harder. Meesho was also remote for the longest time after COVID. A lot of my entire
leading
team
a
was
team when the entire company is remote is way harder than
way
leading a
harder.
team
Yeah,
when
that's
it's
true.
in office. Yeah,
Exactly. So which is why I think when I was building, I'm like, you have to come to, we have to build it together.
Yeah.
It becomes harder otherwise. I think a lot of my team at Meesho, when I was doing monetization, we started bang during COVID. So I hadn't met any of them. Like I started building, and then for 1 year I did not meet any of them. And it's harder to lead that way, right? Because it's harder to understand people's motivations, their struggles, to just have fun, right? Okay, let's just go out, hang out. I think it's harder to hang out when you're remote. I think a lot of it then happened over time. So post COVID, we kind of got people back, and then we could spend time together. But it's harder, I'm sure. Like remote is very, very painful, and I do not recommend early stage companies at least to go remote.
That's true. When you have empathy towards your team, it shows, and that's not something that you can fake. You can't really fake having fake caring for your team.
Yeah.
And also, I saw this graph recently where a good leader is somebody who challenges their team.
Yeah.
And also cares for them personally, their personal growth. So you want to, if you just keep challenging them in a professional environment, but you don't care for them professionally, that's just aggression.
Yeah,
but
100%.
But when you also care for them personally and also challenge them professionally, that's a sweet spot for them, where they know that they are growing in the company.
Yeah.
They're not just employed, they're not just getting a monthly salary, but there is something more to it. So then they stay in the team.
Correct.
They feel like the product is it's their product that they're building.
Yeah.
Because I personally hate when I'm working in a team, I hate it if I'm being felt like, okay, I'm just being salaried. This is what my manager is telling me to do, and I have to do it. That's not a good place to be in, right?
Correct. No, 100%. I think it's the other thing. I think now that you brought this up is, one is caring about them, but the other is just empowering them to do more also, right? I think if you become a micromanager and you tell them, okay, 1, 2, 3 things, this is what I want you to do, people beyond a point, it just becomes very monotonous, boring for them. I think if you hire enough smart people on the team, they want to do smart work also. So if you keep telling them this, and this, it does get...
You want to have some sort of an autonomy.
Autonomy, 100%. So again, I think for me, I've seen... and it's, if you're in an early stage startup, I think that comes automatically. There's just so much to be done. I think people end up, and I think in an early stage company, then it's on you how much you want to pick up, right? And I've seen if you hire self-motivated people, they come in and they do amazingly well. And I think they themselves see the value in the work that they do.
Yeah, they like to collaborate. You push them in a direction and let them do their thing. Yeah. And that's when they focus the most and work the best.
Yeah. No, so I think empowerment and then empathy, I think that solves most of the early stage leaders. The 2 E's work.
Also, while we talk about this, there's one more thing that comes to my mind, and that's employee retention. When you are leading teams, and how you lead teams also impacts if your employees stay with you or not. Have you faced any sort of issue throughout your experience, be it at Meesho or other startups that you worked at, or be it at Teleport? How do you tackle employee retention? Because it's important, right? You don't want people to just leave after 6 months of working.
Correct.
So have you faced any issues?
I have. I mean, I could talk about Teleport as well. I think while we are a small team, while we've not faced, I think, retention problems as much, considering it's a small, like I said, it's like a very close-knit family kind of a place. I think I faced retention issues when I made bad hiring decisions for me. I think wherever, I think we've had it at Teleport where we've had, a couple of people who left early or were let go.
Yeah.
And when I would go back and, think about what went wrong, I think a lot of it went back to the hiring decision I took, right? I think it's super important that you evaluate a person not just from a skill set perspective, but also from a value system perspective, and whether that matches yours or not.
Absolutely.
And I think most of the retention issues end up coming there when your value system doesn't
I actually
match.
so agree to this point. Even the attrition rate at Peatsbook went higher when while hiring, we used to focus a lot on the hard skills instead of soft skills. So we faced a lot of problem while communicating with the team members. I remember this one fine day, it was Diwali, and I was literally calling up my intern, and I was like, oh, you have to do this right now. There was no communication at all, and that's how the attrition rate went really high at Facebook. So I definitely agree to your point.
I think important to be patient with hiring. I realized that, but I think I also got to a point where I'm like, I have to hire somebody, like, who's going to do all of this, right? And then I ended up making decisions which were not ideal. We were like, okay, let's just get this person and we'll see, because this person has the skill set. But I knew that person had, for example, this person that we had on the team had never done 0 to 1. He had worked in large companies before this, or like had been in 1 to 10 or those kind of companies where there were set processes. There's somebody telling you exactly what to do, how to do it. And when this person joined the team, he ended up struggling a lot. And I think it was like, looking back, I feel I did not do a good job because he was not a right fit. He could not understand why is everything so messy, right? Why do we keep changing direction every month or so? And if you work for a 0 to 1 startup, that's how it is. Or even if you're not, I think if you're the kind of person who's, very open, flexible, who understands that, things at an early stage company change.
It's very dynamic.
It's very dynamic. But if you come from that environment and that's what you enjoy, even though you have the right skill sets, you will not be able to really adjust.
You're just not comfortable in that work.
Exactly. So I think I blame it as much on me as I would blame it on, like that person not having put in enough effort, because I feel it's important to filter. And I think now when we hire now, I think I ensure that I'm putting that person through enough number of, tests or interviews. And while it may seem painful for the person at that point, yaar, kitne interview karenge? But it helps, because I think once they come in, I know 100% कि, okay, this person is a good fit, and they feel more, involved in what we are doing and what we are building.
So the problem of employee retention goes back to making a better hiring decision.
I think like a large portion of percentage of it is just like, most people who leave, I think I was reading somewhere, is because they don't get along with their boss, for example, right? And again, that comes to you having spent enough time early on. I think you may still end up making wrong decisions every now and then. And sometimes it's harder. Like while at Meesho, it used to be even more stricter. We used to have 3 to 4 rounds of interviews, and we used to have bar raisers. And post that, we would hire a person. And you would have thought, okay, like I've done the max possible thing I could. And sometimes things still don't end up working out, and that there could be multiple reasons. I think a lot of times it's also, I've seen a lot of younger folks we hire, they get like a 20% hike and they're like, okay, now I'm going, right? So there are things like those that will still happen, and you will always have problems at those fronts. I think the bigger challenge I used to face even at Meesho and here is getting people to join. I think you give out an offer and then people, go out and, shop for more offers.
Yes.
So people don't end up joining. So I think more than retention, I think my larger problem today is just getting people to you. Get to the first day.
So now, after learning your lessons, how do you, what are the things you look for in hiring a person? You said value system, skill set. Do you also hire on potential?
Yes, I think we do. Depends on though I'm very particular about it. It depends on the role. I think there are some roles where skill set is super critical. Let's say if I'm hiring for a digital marketing role and you do not have experience about digital marketing, as a founder, for me, it's very hard because I am managing 100 things in the company. It is going to be very hard for me to go and train this person on digital marketing. Sometimes I'm also not the expert on digital marketing. So there are certain roles we've hired where we said we want somebody who understands, has the core skill set. There are certain roles we've hired just purely on potential as well. So for operations, we've hired somebody who did not have operations background, but I feel operations is something that's easier to learn. Operations is also something where anybody who has broadly is more structured, somebody who's willing to give a lot of time, because operations is like a 24/7 job. Like somebody's visa got screwed up, you have to be like on call at 10 p.m. and solve that problem. So there, in that role, we were just looking for motivation. Like, is the person motivated? Is this person hungry to learn?
Yeah.
And is this person going to sit and, build and, go on the ground and get their hands dirty? Right.
So it varies depending on the
so
role.
for me, it depends on the
role. Yeah.
It depends on the role, but I've never shied away from hiring people who have just a lot of hunger to learn, even if they don't know. I think it's fine. But there are certain roles, like, if you're hiring for a tech coder role, I think you need to get somebody with experience.
absolutely.
Digital marketing, for me at least, was another role like that.
In fact, yesterday I was watching a video of what product managers look for while hiring, and a lot of them looked for value system and authenticity. And they would ask questions like, what would your sibling think of you? And the way you answer that question, it reflects if you're authentic or not. If you say things like, my sibling thinks that I'm a hard worker, I'm smart, that is bullshit. No sibling thinks.
So I remember this one conversation with a founder on Twitter. He was looking for a design intern back in 2022. And he was like, okay, I won't ask for your portfolio or anything. I'll just ask you a few questions. I was like, okay, go ahead. He started asking a bunch of questions, which were very weird to me. But now that I've listened to this bit of yours, I'm like, okay, it makes a lot of sense now. He was like, what would your worst enemy say about you? Or what do you do when you wake up and all?
He knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing. And to me now, it actually makes a lot of sense now that Pooja has said that.
I think I've bombed a lot of interviews in the past, maybe like 2-3 years ago when I was just starting to work. Because I would try to portray a certain self, which I would think that would please.
Even I was very pretentious back then.
But now I'm just like, okay, this is me. This is the experience I have. These are the things I don't know.
And it's important to be like, okay with saying I do not know. I think one question I often ask in interviews is, tell me a time when you failed in life, and then how did you come out of it, right? And it's very important for me to understand, because in startups, you every day you're going to come across a thing where this is not working out, and now what? And it also tells me if the person is authentic, right? Is he vulnerable enough to come and talk to me about a failure, and is not giving me some very random globe answer about, oh, I failed this exam, or some very made up answer that doesn't sound like a failure in the first place. So I think it was very critical for me to understand that this person is vulnerable, open to feedback, because I think how you get back up from your worst times is super important when you're working in an early stage company. So I do have like these bunch of questions that I'd
this actually reminds me of a meme which says, if you want to marry a tech bro, give him like a computer with slow internet to see if he has
the patience.
One another question was, you could ask like, do you consider yourself lucky? That reveals a lot about the person. If they say like, okay, no, I have not been lucky, I've just worked my way. I think everybody is lucky.
Everybody is lucky.
I consider myself insanely lucky because wherever you are in life, it's a mix of luck and what you do with that luck.
You know how humble the person is when you answer this question as well.
Let's circle back a little. I really want to talk about your experience and your time at INSEAD.
Sure.
I believe you pursued your MBA in 2016, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Okay, I'm right. Amazing.
Been a while now.
Been a while. It's been how many years?
7 years now.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I was like
much older to you guys
back then. But how relevant do you think MBA degrees are nowadays? What I'm about to say, just take it with a grain of salt. What I believe is, nowadays MBA is just an escape from your personal or your professional life. That's how I've seen a lot of people put it out there, and that's what I believe personally as well. Because I know a lot of professionals out there who are pursuing MBA degrees only to just escape their professional life for a bit, and they have agreed to it. Like whenever I ask them about the same, they say, yes, we want to escape our professional life for a bit. So what do you think about
professional life? And mostly I've seen people just pursue CAT once they're done with their bachelors because they don't really know what to do. Since you've had that experience.
No, I'll be very honest about this. I think there are enough people who do that. I think a part of my own decision making also kind of came from there. Like when I was working for the startup, and I was always like, I want to build something, but I still couldn't figure out kya build karna hai.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, maybe like the MBA will help. No, but that MBA is not like a magic potion which is going to tell you what to do, right? But I know enough people who just gotten bored of their jobs and they want
Let's do
something.
MBA and get a product management job next.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
That's a very common trajectory.
Yeah. So I get a lot of people who reach out to me on LinkedIn, and they want to apply to INSEAD. They reach out to me and I ask them ki kyun karna hai MBA, and a lot of people tell me the same thing, that they're not enjoying their current roles. They don't know what they want to do next. Maybe an MBA will help. And I think sometimes it's okay. I think it's okay to not know what you want, but I think what you end up struggling then, especially when you go into your MBA not knowing what you want, is that you get stretched in too many directions, right? Like you'll go onto campus as some person doing product management, somebody wants to do consulting, somebody want to go work for startups. So I think it's fine. I also remember my last, my flatmate from a couple of years ago. She used to work for a not-for-profit, and she'd worked there for a lot of time, and then suddenly she got to a point in time where she felt, hey, maybe this is not what I want to do. I thought I'll create a lot of impact through this, but being on the ground, she could feel that I could do more impact in a for-profit setup than I was doing in a not-for-profit, and it was very hard for her to make that shift. And that's a good reason to then go and want to do an MBA and move out. So I tell people there are only 2 or 3 big reasons you'd want to do an MBA. One is you want to move functions, which is something which I wanted to do. Like I felt like, accounting, finance, and everybody thinks I do it. And I want to move into something else. And I want to do product or consulting or whatever. And it's harder for me to do it right now with my current background. The other could be you want to shift industries, right? You are let's say you're working in oil and gas. Now, oil and gas, now you want to move to startups, it's going to be hard to make. And if you work like 5-7 years there, it's going to be very difficult to make that shift. Without like a master's degree, then it helps. And third is, especially with INSEAD, I tell people it's also because if you want to change geography, I think there are a lot of people who want to go outside, live outside. And it's harder to do it if you, like if you have, like I have a CA degree, I couldn't have moved outside. In my case, anyways, I didn't want to. But if you want to move outside, work outside, an MBA is a good option to like go and do outside and get to another job. But just saying I'm bored and I want to do or I want to learn, I think you're not going to learn anything at MBA. MBA is more... there are obviously lectures and there are, small aspects. They'll talk about economics and a lot of other topics. But it largely, I think you have to go in with a goal to like say that, hey, I want to make this transition. And this 1 year or this 2 years is going to give me the right set of knowledge, give me the right set of people and network. I think that's my biggest, takeaway from like INSEAD. Also, it gave me a very large network and it gave me a brand. Right. Today, when I go and tell people I studied at INSEAD, when I came back, I was building my startup. Then I decided abhi ye nahi karna. I wanted to go back to startups. The fact that I had studied at INSEAD helped. Right. They said, okay, this person seems like a smart person. Let me at least talk to her. Right. And that's how like even Meesho happened that way. Like I just wrote to Vidit one day saying that I really love what you guys are building. And I'd love to speak to you and see if there's something interesting I could do with you. And possibly the fact that, I had a CA degree, I had INSEAD kind of helped, and that brand value it gets is there. But yeah, being bored enough, not a good reason. So I recommend people, if you're bored, don't do an MBA. Find something else interesting to do. It's an expensive thing to like do if you're just bored. It's a lot of money.
Name numerous people right now.
It's a lot of money. Like why would you unless you're really
it is a lot of money.
Or then when you go
when you just switch countries.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like I was just discussing with my sister also the other day. She was telling me like the INSEAD fees is now increased to like 100,000 euros.
Oh,
so you're going to spend like a crore of rupees on your MBA. You might
better know what you're trying to do with it and what you think.
And be very conscious of it when you go. Like don't go with the mindset कि वहाँ जाके figure out कर लेंगे या break ले रहे तो वहाँ जाके figure out कर लेंगे, because you'll end up struggling there. So it's good prior to like going on campus, at least you spend enough time trying to think about what do you want to do afterwards, and then spend that time during your MBA to get to that goal. If you go with a mindset कि okay, let's go chill, have fun, or I'll figure out on campus, you will get lost because there is so much FOMO on campus. Everybody is doing too many things. And you'll have a lot of imposter syndrome because there are people who are all super smart who are
I
coming
think that
there.
could also be the case with people who just do an MBA after their bachelor's, because they don't have any work experience, and other people could have a lot of it, and then you just don't know what you're doing there.
Exactly. I usually recommend people to work for a couple of years, really understand whether you want to do that MBA in the first place before jumping into it. It also helps when you go into MBA with some experience. I think that experience helps in that whole MBA journey. I went into an MBA class and I had enough experience to go and talk about it, right? So there are discussions happening in the class and I could contribute to those discussions using the experience and the lens I had. Versus when you go right out of college, your only experience is college experience, right? So a lot of things may not make as much sense, or you'll not gain as much out of it. When you go after maybe at least 2-3 years of work experience, it's always good to kind of have some experience and then go.
So at INSEAD, were you surrounded by students who had a lot of experience, or were they novices?
INSEAD, the average age is about 28 years. So I think I was on the younger end. I went to INSEAD when I was 24.
24.
So I was amongst the youngest people in my class. And looking back at it, I felt like I could have waited another couple of years also to go. But yeah, there people come with a lot of experience, and that experience matters, right? You're sitting in a class full of people. There's a marketing guy, there's an economist who was sitting next to me, there was a consultant who was sitting next to me, and there are people from 60 different countries who come there, right? So they have their own culture that adds to it. How you would talk up in a class, stand up in a class and talk is very different from how, let's say, a Japanese person would come and do it, right? So there's so many of those nuances that come through. And it adds a lot of value, because then the conversation. So in an MBA school, most MBA schools have a study group system. So what they do is they partner you up in a group of 4-5 people, which becomes your study group for the next 4-5 months. Or that was how it was at INSEAD.
Basically, sort of a cohort.
Correct. And they, at least at INSEAD, they would bring the most diverse people. They want to ensure that you kind of end up fighting right together. There's a consultant. I had a Danish consultant, I had a German guy, I had a Canadian person in my team, and then everybody has a different point of view on how to do certain things, right? And to be able to just work together and get
that
things
also teaches
done.
You teamwork.
Yeah, I think a lot of my teamwork skills came after INSEAD. A lot of my networking skills, just putting yourself out there, right? I think I never did that enough. When you do an MBA, they're just putting you out there every day. रोज जाके stage पे खड़े होके आपको कुछ तो बात करना है, right? So there's a project, they're meeting a lot of people. So I think it just opens up your mind to a lot of things. But yeah, again, being bored is not the reason to do it.
Being bored is not the reason, guys.
To do anything.
You invested 60 to 70,000 euros, if I'm not wrong. You think you've gotten enough ROI out of that?
No, I have. I think
How much is that in INR now?
So I think it's about 90 rupees. So yeah, I think 70,000 euros would be about 65,000 lakhs back then.
That is still a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Now it's increased.
Yeah, now it's I was saying, it's 100,000 euros. You can get scholarships, so there are ways to bring it down.
But still,
it's expensive. So it took me a while.
And everything else that goes up.
Yeah, it's a good 1 CR investment that you're doing. And which is why if you're spending so much money, you should be very conscious about how you're spending that money and what you're getting out of that money. And it took me a while to repay that loan. So I think after Meesho, it took me about almost 2.5-3 years at Meesho to repay it entirely. But the ROI is worth it. Even now at Teleport, it helps in a lot. It helps me with hiring, right? When I'm hiring people, they want to work with other smart people. And in my case, that pedigree helps. When I want to talk to investors, for example, as much as, people say, okay, oh, pedigree doesn't, they want to go beyond the pedigree. I think most people end up looking at pedigree first at a lot of times, which I think is now moving away, which is great, I think. But in my case, when I was fundraising and I was talking to investors, it helped that, hey, this person has gone to INSEAD and let me speak to her. Over a period of time, I think now, and that's a good change that I see happening, is people are looking beyond pedigree. So maybe this whole thing about pedigree being matters will hopefully go away in the next 5-10 years. There are so many edtech startups that are coming now, right? There are these Stoa and GrowthX, and they're doing all alternate. Exactly. So they're doing all alternate education.
Yeah, but they don't work in the MBA space.
They do, if I'm not wrong.
Which one is it? Sorry.
Impact by Tanip.
Oh yeah, I think I'm not sure. I think
I think they work in the tech space for most
they do
part.
work in the
Yeah, I think they do.
but
yeah, they do
Stoa is the
master-
topmost.
Yeah, correct. And a lot of them is alternate education, right?
Yeah.
Like people do weekend courses, and we
Yeah.
hired somebody recently from Stoa, and one of the smartest people I've worked with, right? So it's good, like people are, going beyond like the traditional MBAs and doing like more specialized MBAs, and Stoa also kind of it's more startup focused, so people want to get into startups. It makes sense. Versus if you go to traditional MBA schools, they have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
A lot of the case studies will be 10-15 years old.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of these new age education startups are doing a very, very good job of it.
Even we had somebody in our team who was a Stoa graduate, and he was an amazing person to work with.
Raj. Are you talking
Yes,
about
I am
Raj?
talking about
Yeah.
Raj. Such an amazing person to work with, because he would just know how to, first of all, communicate well enough. So even if there's a situation where you could panic, and he would be calm. He would
Yeah, surprisingly, he would be very calm every time.
he would be calm, and he just knew what to do in any situation that could arise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and he also made sure that he would appreciate you for whatever you're doing, so that
Yeah.
you never feel like you're not,
Yeah.
you're just employed, just being salaried. He would
Yeah.
collaborate.
Yeah.
So that's my experience with somebody who's
Yeah, no, I think
graduated
I've
from
realized that I think smartness doesn't come from your education.
Absolutely.
And you have to, I think we need to do a lot of work around how do you filter out the right people. I think until now I've worked with other startups before. Today when I get 500 applications, how do I filter 500 applications, right? And the first thing people end up doing is, acha, education, agar IIT NIT hai, if I'm hiring for an engineering role or an analyst role, that's a good space to be. And I don't think that's the best filter. You're missing out on so many good people by just putting out that filter there.
Yeah.
And I think we need to, as a whole, as a community, we need to find a way to better filter out the right people. And just like that IIT degree or any other degree doesn't really decide whether you're smart or not smart.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's true. So Nikita, you've been building Teleport alone without a co-founder, and I've seen a lot of startups and a lot of people who want to build, they immediately look for a co-founder before even really starting.
Yeah.
If you're not technical, you want a technical co-founder. If you're technical,
Yeah.
you want a founder who is good at management.
Yeah.
So why is it that you decided to build it alone? Or
It wasn't a choice. So honestly, that was not my first choice. I think it's always good to build with a co-founder. So I think when I quit Meesho also, I was also in a similar phase. I said, I want to build it with a co-founder. I'd spoken to enough people, and I'd seen, I'd worked for 2 startups before that. So I had seen one without a co-founder, and I'd seen one, Meesho obviously was with a co-founder, and I realized it always helps to have one. And it's not just about technical skill sets. Obviously, like I did not understand tech product as much.
Yeah.
But inherently startups are hard, right? It's just like an emotional roller coaster. Like one day you're having a good day and suddenly something goes wrong, and then you're having a bad day. And it's good to have someone to talk to, or somebody who has your back on like the bad days as well.
is it a lonely space to be?
Yeah, I think it's I prefer to have a co-founder. So the way I started it also was I went around looking for one, but I couldn't find somebody I thought was a great fit, or somebody. I think by that time I'd also made up my mind on what I wanted to build. So it was not just about building together, but it was about building this thing together, right? So the person had to buy into, it's almost like a marriage, right? Like you have to buy into this relationship that we'll have. Plus, you have to buy into the idea that we are working on. And so I think while I spoke to a lot of people, I just realized I didn't want to it's like the hiring decision I was telling you about. Right? I didn't want to, and this was one place I didn't want to make a wrong decision. And somehow I did not find the right person while I was doing this. And I said, okay, let me really start building. So what I was doing is I was like, okay, co-founder, I'll find, but I don't want to stop building because of this. So I found early team members instead who started helping me build the product that we were building. And then I got to a point where I think once you start building a product and you have a live product, everything else takes a backseat. So I think it just naturally, like finding a co-founder ended up taking a backseat. I actually had a very good friend of mine who was helping me build the initial version of Teleport, and the goal was to get him on board as a co-founder. But he eventually decided to not want to do it. I think he had a lot of other personal commitments as well. So I think even that conversation kind of got parked. And over a period of time, I built confidence that I could do this alone, right? I think I did enough tech product and I was like, okay, it's no rocket science. Like, if I need help, I think what I've done is I've built a good set of mentors around me where things I don't understand. So I know there are certain decisions in tech, I just don't understand how to take a decision. And then I go back to people I know. So I went to Meesho's CTO, for example, to get advice. This other friend of mine who I was considering for a co-founder, I end up going back to him often to help me make some of these decisions.
Helped you.
Yeah, so I think if you
network is your network.
yeah, correct. So if you don't have a co-founder, I think the second best thing to do is have this own, community of yours who you can rely for advice on certain aspects which you end up struggling with.
Since you had a lot of experience, a lot of diverse experience, and a great network that you got from your MBA experience, you kind of managed really well without a co-founder. But I think this is a problem a lot of young builders face if they don't have a co-founder. A couple days back, I met someone in Bangalore only. She was trying to build something and she was really struggling to find a co-founder because, as you said, it's like a marriage. And it's hard to find a work spouse than a real spouse.
Spouse. So I like that.
No, 100%. Because it's exactly like a marriage, right? You're going to spend the next 5, 10, 15 years building this thing together. And then it's not just this relationship, but there is this third entity, which is the product, the company that you're building. You have to find somebody who's motivated enough to...
It requires you to have the same vision and value systems have to match. It's a lot of work.
You have to. But it's always, again, I think it's always good to find a co-founder. So if you can find one, I always recommend people to go out there and look for one, or do it with... I think looking for one is the harder part, right? I think if there's somebody in your network, who you think could be a great fit, somebody you've been friends with. I think the reason it was harder for me also was, I think beyond the point, I started going out and meeting people I did not know before. And it gets even harder because you don't know this person at all. How do you decide whether you want to, co-found this company with this person?
And also when you're friends with somebody, you kind of know if you want to work with them or not. I have some amazing friends who are very close to me, but probably I would never
want to work with them. Yeah. No, it's true. Like even this friend I was working with, I think I had a lot of comfort because I knew I could build with this person and I knew him from before and we had complementary skill sets. And then there were other people I knew that even if I was the greatest of friends with, not the best idea to build together.
Yes.
Right. So
if you were to bring a co-founder on board, would you prefer someone from a tech background, considering you belong to a
I think my first preference would always have been a tech co-founder, considering that's one area I do not understand as much. I think now I have a solid understanding of it as well. Like the good part about my own career has been I've done a little bit of everything. Like I've done finance accounts and I did sales for a bit. At Meesho, I was the chief of staff, so I get to see a little bit of everything. So I think I have a lot of confidence on other functions in the company.
I think it's very imperative for a founder to be a generalist.
Yeah, correct.
and
Yeah,
not
that's
be
true.
Exactly.
not have a specific skill set.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Also, I think building a company from scratch is like really difficult. Even I have
Yeah.
experienced this while building
Yeah.
Facebook. What I would want to know is, considering that you weren't able to like find the right fit for the co-founder
Yeah.
position, I'm pretty sure basically have a founding team at
Correct.
Teleport.
Yeah.
How did you go about hiring your first
Hmm.
member of the founding team?
Yeah, I think I've been lucky. That's my answer. Uh, no, I have a great founding team, and I think it just happened to be. So I think I think I got to a point where I was building with this friend of mine I was telling you about, and I was considering him obviously for a co-founder. So I told him, why don't we start building together? And then you can come in and join later. And he came from a product tech background. So he started, and he knew people in the product tech space. So the first tech person we hired was a common friend between him and me. And he knew that person very well because he'd worked with that person. And it just happened that that person was also working on a project that just got over. So he was like, okay, let me help you on the side. We'll figure out how it works. The second person we hired was the person who leads our product right now. He also came from a common network of people. So again, there is this community called as GrowthX. Which is also like an edtech platform. They teach growth. They have growth cohorts that they do. So this person came from there. I had met him before a couple of times at some of these events, and he also got super excited by the idea. He also wanted to do something 0 to 1. So I said, okay, why don't you come and help us on the side? So for the first 3 or 4 months, I obviously didn't have the capital. We'd not raised any money. We said we'll build a very small MVP. We'll see if this works or not, and then we'll decide if everybody of you has to come on board, not come on board. So I was the only full-time person. These 3 guys were just helping me build on the side on the weekends and the evenings. And then I think once we built the conviction that, hey, this works and
This can make money.
This can make money. I decided to raise some capital also. And then I got these guys on board full time saying, yeah, now we have conviction that this is going to work. So why don't you guys come on board full time and we'll figure out, the compensation and all of it over a period of time.
So Teleport is not bootstrapped now?
We're not bootstrapped now. So we were for the first few months. We actually got a grant from Sequoia. So they have this program called, they have a program called a Spark, which is for women founders. So they gave us our first check came from them. They gave us a 100K grant. So this was like an equity free grant that they gave us, which is when all these, I finally got my founding team to come on board full time.
Okay.
And then just recently we raised another $500,000. So yeah, now we're no longer.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
So yeah, we're not bootstrapped anymore. But yeah, I think it's important that you have the right founding team. I think these guys who were a part of my founding team for the first 6 months, it didn't take any money. And even now, I know their market rates are much higher, but they come in because they believe in what we are building. And they know there's a long-term financial gain that will eventually come through.
Yeah.
Right. Nikita, how has it been like to be a woman founder? And also someone who doesn't have a co-founder. How has it been like?
Yeah, woman founder. Honestly, a founder is a founder. Woman or men, I think it doesn't really matter as much. At least that's what I have understood. Though the thing is, I think there are fewer of us out there building. What I end up seeing is because there are fewer role models for us, right? So I keep seeing this across. I've seen it at Meesho. I've seen it at Teleport. I think sometimes women don't have the right role models, and which is why they sometimes get less ambitious, or
it's
you
not
need to
about
push
the
them.
caliber. It's just that we don't have a lot of people to look up to.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've just not had enough people to look up to, and I think that happens even in the founder journey. I think there are very fewer role models in terms of women building something. A lot of people I go up to for advice, mentorship are largely men. Though I think the Spark program that I did, the Sequoia Spark, was a group of like 12, 13 women founders. So I think there's a great set of women, super ambitious, going out there and building. But honestly, from a business perspective, it doesn't matter, like whether it's a woman founder building or a male founder building. In terms of the resources, I think while there are some biases that are there, like I said, there aren't enough role models. When you go out there to raise money, not having a co-founder has an impact. Sometimes I think you being a woman founder has an impact. Like, I've had conversations where subtly an investor has tried to ask me, what's your marital status? Like, are you married? What's happening on your personal side? Which you would not ask a male founder.
Yes.
You would not ask them ki shaadi ho gayi hai ki nahi hui hai. Right? And I think those, they've been fewer. It's not like everybody is like that. But I've seen people ask me those questions and then I don't take them to the heart. I think there are enough good people out there.
Things are changing.
Yeah.
I was recently talking to someone who's in the hiring space, and he told me something that was really shocking to me. He said that, when he was in that hiring space, there was a woman who was fit for the role. They could have hired her, but they didn't, just because she was newly married, because then she would have a child in a couple of years, and then they'd have to. Yeah, that is weird. But and also on the other hand, there was somebody who was getting paid married leaves, marital leaves.
Yeah.
So things are changing. Both of
I think a lot of companies do that nowadays.
Yeah.
Marital leaves.
They give a lot of other also. So I remember having this conversation when I was at Meesho. There's a thing that happened then. I think Zomato announced something called as period leaves for women.
Yes. I think Zomato was
The first company to do it.
Yes.
And then there's a lot of chatter at Meesho. Should we do it? Should we not? And then, we had this whole committee of women and male leadership guys. We came on to like one call and we're discussing, should we offer it or not? And I think while it was obvious to say, haan, matlab de dete, like this is like a good thing, but you also have to understand the side effects that come with it and how do you solve for it, right? So while it's easy for the leadership team to go out and say, okay, let's go and give period leaves, I think the conversation we were trying to have is how will it impact the hiring managers? Let's say a manager is hiring for a role and he knows if I hire a female every month, she's going to take like this one leave. Versus if I hire a male candidate, he's going to be around the whole time. He might just unconsciously also end up taking a decision to hire the male candidate so that he has more efficiency. So while you can announce a lot of these things, you have to also be conscious of like ensuring that, the entire team is on board and we're not getting biases in our hiring. And I think eventually, even at Meesho, while we did it, we, instead of calling it period leave, we started something called as wellness leaves. And we said it's not just for females, right? It's also for men. I think men also struggle with their own issues. They want leaves for their kids and marriage and mental health, right? Like everybody struggles with mental health issues today. So why do we have to just do something for women? And we tried to make it a little more inclusive. And also the other reason for making it that inclusive was to ensure there are no biases in hiring, because when you start having certain things for a certain section of people and not for the others, it might start impacting some of these other decisions. And these are very unconscious decisions. And over a period of time, we'll not even realize how many such decisions, people end up taking down the line in mid-manager level as well.
A couple of months back, I did a tweet about this. That got me a lot of hate. Then I went into a rabbit hole. I started researching. Like, okay, did I say the right thing?
What did you say?
Can I not say it on
Okay.
It had like 3 million views, man.
Wow. I'm going to find your Twitter profile after. Was it on Twitter?
I'll send it to you.
Of course.
And that's where I found this article which talked about the same thing as you said.
Yeah.
That hiring managers might make a decision where they don't want to hire females, and that defeats the whole purpose. But also at the same time, when as females, so our company has period leaves. They get one period leave every month. I personally don't use it every month because
same actually.
Every month looks different. Some days, some months I want it, some months I can do without it. But just knowing that the management cares enough to give us a menstrual leave per month, it puts you in a psychologically safe space that you know that you are being cared for.
Correct.
And I think that is very important.
Yeah, and that's true with everything. I think you have to be able to trust the people you work with. So for Teleport, for example, at least right now, because we are a small team, we don't have a concept of leaves, right? We tell people that you have to be just say conscious leaves, right? Like, and you have certain things to be done. It's okay if you take leaves. Like, I've never said no to anybody taking leaves, but I think people have a lot of ownership themselves, right? So they end up, if they don't really need a leave, they'll not end up taking leaves. And similarly, I don't go and measure every day, acha, tumne ye month mein you took like 5 leaves and, maybe we should cut salaries or anything. I think it's about trust both ways. I trust you to take the right decision, and also vice versa, right? Like, you're being very conscious about how many leaves you take.
I
and
mean,
what you
if
do
you know
with
that
it.
the manager cares enough for you, you also want to
automatically
Yes.
contribute, right?
It works both ways.
Yeah, so I think it's, which is what even we did at Meesho. Like, we gave it to everybody, and then people anyways use it very, like, the other conversation was, how will it impact efficiency and overall, people taking 12 extra leaves, how does it impact the overall company in terms of overall productivity? But we said people are anyways conscious of these things, right? Just because you give people 12 leaves doesn't mean they're going to take all the 12 leaves just because you're giving them. I think people in general are very conscious of taking the leaves that they
I think
want.
it's more about just creating an inclusive and safe space for all kinds of people. Right?
And we introduced a lot of different kinds of leave. We had like a pet adoption leave. We had like a bunch of leaves. We became like super inclusive. Yeah, so I remember we had a very funny conversation. Then the HR like, what's the definition of pet? Like, is it just dogs, cats? There's somebody who like got a fish. Like, is fish okay?
What is a pet adoption leave?
You go and adopt a pet.
If you adopt a pet, like, you get like a 4-5 day.
Yeah, oh my god, that is
like
amazing.
a 4 or 5 day leave. I don't remember now.
I want to work for you.
Yeah. Oh, this was Meesho. I think Teleport we have more, like, I think we're too young to kind of.
First time I'm hearing pet adoption leave.
Yeah, so I think Meesho was super inclusive that way. I think we focused a lot on
let me just
employee health
DM Sanjeev or with it.
yeah, if you wanna go work with them. No, it's a great team to work with, and like that. I've had 4 years and like 4 very good solid years working with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we end this, Nikita, I want to ask you if you have any advice for a 20-year-old person who's just out of college, is not really sure what they want to do, maybe are even struggling to decide if they want to go for an MBA or not. So any final words of wisdom for someone like that? Because you also started pretty early.
Yeah. I think if I had to give some advice to my 20-year-old self, since I've been there, I think you need to stop being too hard on yourself. I think we end up being too harsh on ourselves in terms of what we want to do. Sometimes it's okay not to know what you want, right? And it's okay to take the time and explore and then come back and say, this is what I want. I think we get too impacted by, FOMO around what is happening around us. I think there's a lot of chatter on social media, on Twitter, to be like somebody. So I think if I had to give my 20-year-old self advice, it would be not to be harsh on yourself. And I think now being a founder, I think if there's a 20-year-old who wants to start up, I think my advice would be it's too soon to start up. This has been a very personal. I think it's a very personal advice that I end up giving. Like, now that I've seen the journey of starting up, I feel like there is merit in working for a bit, work with the right companies.
I actually agree a lot with you.
Did you start right out of college?
Yeah, I did. And I think that's so basically about Facebook, we weren't able to raise funds, and that's why we decided to like sell it. And we were lucky enough
to find
the right buyer, right? But I so agree with you. Even right after Tweepsbook, my co-founder contacted me and he was like, let's just start another startup. And I said, I want to work for a bit. I want to gain that sort of experience to, lead a team, lead a company. I just don't want to call someone up on Diwali and ask them to work. So I think I just told him that, I think I'll work for a few years. I'll gain that sort of experience. And then maybe I'll think of starting up again. So I definitely agree.
Because you don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? There's so many things you could have just, you can learn. I think I learned so much about building the 4 years I was at Meesho, about GTM, about how to raise money, about just working with really smart people, how to do better hiring, how to be a better leader. when you start right out of college, you have to you have to learn everything from scratch. So I think just even if it's
That
just
is
2-3 years, spend some time. It's also important to have like some financial corpus also built in, because you don't want to decide to build or to not build something basis your own personal finances, right? Like I think it also keeps playing in your mind often.
Yeah.
So I think to have that some bit of financial corpus, to have learned, how to build, and obviously you can learn on your own also, but maybe just take you longer. I think it's always good to kind of spend some time working with somebody who's been there, done that, and then going out and building on your own.
I asked you that question because I'm 20 and I just asked it on behalf of everyone who's as young.
Yeah.
And that is something I definitely see on Twitter. You see every 21-year-old, all they're building something.
Yeah. I think it's also for each his own. Yeah, I think there's some people so Zepto founders, for example, right? They were very young, but I think there are exceptions which are there.
Yeah. I tweeted a very controversial opinion a few days ago. That every young startup founder has some sort of generational wealth to fall back on. Like you would never see a middle class. That's what I believe at least.
You can't afford that.
Simply. Yeah, you just can't afford to, go out there and take the risk of starting up.
Yeah.
When you should be studying and planning on working somewhere.
Yeah.
If you are a middle class person.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Like if you belong to
Because once you once you're employed, you're finally out of college, you start you want to be independent first. You want to start providing for your parents, stuff like that. So starting up
not
comes
everyone has that sort of risk
privilege.
Yes,
I think it's also starting up as a privilege. Starting up early is a privilege that very few people
and no one talks about that.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Nikita. This is where we end. This is the first time we're meeting Nikita, and it's been amazing talking to you. It was just been a very easy going, flowing conversation.
I learned a lot of things. I actually learned a lot.
Yeah, I did.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't do enough of these, but I had fun talking to you.
You are amazing at it. And I'm sure this episode is going to help a lot of people. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys.